This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review and another popular demand smackdown. I think I've smacked down the 2015 Dell XPS with everything except for a toaster oven at this point, but you guys have asked and I can understand. You want to see it smacked down against the HP Spectre X360 because, just when you thought the Dell XPS was the new shiny thing on the market, something literally newer and shinier hits that's also very compelling. Big difference between them though. The Dell XPS is just a traditional laptop. The display goes back just a little bit farther than this. The X360 is named that because it's a convertible, so you can use this as a tablet in tent mode and presentation mode, and you can use it with an optional pen. So the first thing to consider with these guys is, do you want just a traditional, as small as possible, 13.3-inch laptop, or do you want something that's one of those two-in-one convertibles, whatever you want to call them, that spins, twists, and can do a variety of things, even act as a tablet, let you draw a little bit, that sort of thing. We're going to compare them now. All right, here it is, the battle of the hottest two new Ultrabooks running Windows on the market, both 13.3-inch displays, both Intel Broadwell 5th generation CPUs inside it, Core i5, Core i7, even Core i3 in the case of the Dell, so no Core M here. You don't have to worry about, making those performance compromises. Both have very good backlit keyboards on them, certainly have large trackpads, so I don't think anything is ever going to be larger than the crazy large trackpad on the HP Spectre X360. So how do you decide between these two? I know a lot of you have asked, probably because they both are really very nicely made machines. It's interesting to see American laptop manufacturers actually back, maybe coming into their heyday again, making really exciting products that people are interested in. First, the Dell XPS 2015, and of course with both of these, you can watch our video reviews of each of these individually and read our written reviews on mobiletechreview.com to learn everything about each of these. But Dell XPS 13, smaller than ever. Important thing to know here is that for those of you who are looking for supreme mobility in a traditional laptop design, this doesn't fold, spindle, mutilate, do any tricks, doesn't yoga. That's as far back as the display goes. You can get it with touch or non-touch displays. But the neat thing about it is 11.6 inches would be what you would think, looking at the size of this laptop. That's how compact it is, that nearly borderless infinity display. Meaning that this is one of the easiest things to throw in your bag in terms of how little space it's going to take, and the fact that it weighs 2.6 to 2.8 pounds. 2.6 pounds for the non-touch, 2.8 pounds for the touchscreen. So if supreme mobility and a traditional laptop design are it for you, and you don't care particularly about the touchscreen besides, then the Dell XPS 13 should be certainly on your short list for things that you're looking at. Now, our Spectre X360 is about normal size for a 13.3-inch, which doesn't mean it's a huge thing. It just has a normal footprint, so it's not 11.6-inch size on the outside. It is 13.3-inch size. And the neat thing about it is a convertible. For those who are interested in the possibilities of a two-in-one machine, as they're also called, you can use it like a standard laptop, completely conventional, normal keyboard. This is attached firmly, so it's great, very lap-friendly. Or you can flatten it out, which I don't think a whole lot of people are dying to do, but you never know. You can use it in tent mode, and, it takes up very little space on a tray table. If you're in the airplane and you just want to watch a movie or something like that, you just set it right down, close that hinge as much as you want, so you can see how tight that can get. Or you can use it, one of my favorites, in your lap in presentation mode because it moves the screen closer to you, so you're not reaching over the keyboard to touch the screen, and you can browse websites, scroll with your fingers, interact with games, play videos, all that sort of thing. So it's pretty versatile. If that appeals to you, well, then obviously the Spectre X360 would be a better choice because the XPS 13 is a great machine, but it doesn't do that stuff. Also, what makes the Spectre X360 pretty cool compared to a lot of other convertibles, even Lenovo's own Yogas, is that it works with the optional active pen. This is a Synaptics pen here. This happens to be the HP branded solution right here. Funny thing, I found the latest generation Dell pen. This is made for some Dell Venue tablets, not for the XPS 13. But anyway, the latest generation actually works even better. It doesn't require as hard a touch. So you can use this for drawing with pressure sensitivity. You can use it for making notes, all that sort of thing. Obviously, it makes more sense with a convertible design where you can make easy access to the screen a possibility, not something you're going to get with the XPS 13. However, if you don't want to take notes, draw, doodle, do masking in Photoshop, then it's not so important to you. So aesthetics, how they look, you know, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I think most people say both of these are very nice looking laptops. I'm not too thrilled with the kind of darker gray that Dell went with for their aluminum lid, but that's just me. You might think it's awfully beautiful. Undeniably, HP really went for outdoing the MacBook in terms of looks. It is, I think, most people say the prettier one. It's got the jewel cut stainless steel sides here that look just pretty darn amazing. The Dell is a little sandwich here, black in the middle, and you've got your aluminum on the outside. This carbon fiber in the middle. It's nice looking. It's a more simple and plain design, whereas the HP kind of says, "Ooh, look at me." You know, you've got the double mated barrels of metal that are meeting over here. It's a very nice and literally more flashy looking laptop. Again, it depends if you like understated and small or if you want something that screams quality, shiny, aluminum, ooh, ah, that sort of thing. In terms of ports, they both do pretty well. Here we got our mini display port and our USB port and our audio jack on this side. On the Dell, we have the USB port over here. That's the power plug on the HP on this side, and the SD card slot, and the card goes all the way in on the HP, which is something I know some of you value because you always keep card installed there. And on the other side, here's the Dell's SD card slot. The card will stick out some. Another USB port. We have two USB ports here, so we got more USB ports going on the HP for those who need a lot of those and don't want to use a hub. Headphone jack, full-size HDMI also, and a mini display port. So the HP is doing a little bit better on the port front. Neither of these have built-in Ethernet. You could use a USB Ethernet adapter if you needed that. But so the HP is a bit ahead on the port front. HP does weigh about a half a pound more though, so you want more goodies, you got to pay in terms of weight to a certain extent. Also, convertible designs do happen to be more heavy because they have more beefy hinge assemblies and stuff versus traditional laptop designs. So how about display? This is where it gets the same yet different, to put it simply enough. Both of these, the base model is a 1920 by 1080 display. With HP, you get an IPS display. Dell uses Sharp IGZO. Sharp IGZO is a pretty neat new technology that saves power and is pretty darn bright. It tends to be a bit on the cooler side and a little harder to color calibrate as a negative, given the way that the power saving works, where they don't always redraw parts of the screen that don't need to be redrawn. That might be a little bit TMI there. What is important is, for the base model of the XPS, that's $899 for the Core i5 with 4 gigs of RAM and 128 gig SSD. Same price as you're going to pay for the HP with those same internals. You get a 1080p touchscreen on the Spectre X360. You get a non-touch matte finish display on the Dell. So for those of you who like touch in Windows, you use the live tile applications, you just find it easier to select things on the desktop by tapping, that sort of thing. Well, that can make a difference right there. For the Dell, if you want to move up to a touchscreen, you also have to move up to the 2560 by 1440 resolution display, the WQHD resolution display. So you may be buying something that you don't want, because honestly, I have to say that 1920 by 1080 is just the perfect resolution, really, I think, for smaller displays. Going up any higher, you have to start to use display scaling, which you know by now from watching our videos. More than just some, Windows third-party programs don't support it well. So either you don't turn scaling on and you have minute icons, tiny text, and menus that are hard to actually access and see, or you use scaling and you might get fuzzy text depending on the scaling ratio you choose. With HP, the base 1080p touch model is a 1080p touch model. So if you don't want to deal with the high DPI scaling issues, you feel like you don't need that high resolution display, it's nice to have that choice. With both of these, you can go up, like I said, to a 2560 by 1440 resolution, still being Sharp IGZO on the Dell and IPS on the HP. Therefore, they both have the same scaling issues. If you want to roll that way, you do get higher resolution, which can be very nice for photo editing. That's going to cost you $12.99 with the Dell. And on the HP, again, touchscreens included. But if you want to move up to their high-resolution display model, right now they have one configuration that bundles all the top-of-the-line stuff. The Core i7, a 512 gig SSD, and that high-resolution display. And that one is $13.49, so hard to compare them when you're looking at the high-resolution display, since HP has it configured like that. Probably what they usually do with new models is they start to roll out more configurations, and you may be able to buy that WQHD high-resolution display without going for the Core i7, the largest possible storage, and all that sort of thing. In terms of how they look, they are both very lovely displays. You can see how cool the IGZO is, and that's even with calibration arm, but like I said, Sharp IGZOs are a little harder to calibrate. The HP, though it may look warm to you, is still actually warmer than what's considered completely color correct. Of course, you can change the color temperature on a display. That's not that hard to do. But you can see the overall difference in color temperature just looking at them. But they're both very sharp, very vibrant, very clear displays. One other thing to note for those of you who are bothered by things like this, and I know some of you are, I've seen you complaining about it, for some reason built into the firmware, Dell has some backlight display brightness control for the display, so you can't actually always control it. What that means, if you go in a really dark room, it's not going to run to maximum brightness. Both of these are very bright displays that exceed 300 nits, so that part's great. So for those of you who are in a dark room and you really want to burn your retinas by cranking it up to the full maximum potential, you can't really do that unless Dell decides to alter the firmware and give you some control over that. It's always doing some level of backlight power management. Not the end of the world. And there are trade-offs too. Like you get the near no bezel display that looks pretty cool here on the Dell. HP has a more traditional bezel. Anything that's going to be used in tablet mode typically will have bigger bezels. So there's a place where you can, well, rest your hand or grab the thing and handle it. In terms of keyboards, you can see they are both absolutely normal looking keyboards right here, and they're both very good in slightly different ways. The Dell has a little bit more of a kind of sculpted feel to the keys. HP uses metal keycaps, which is kind of cool and neat. Neither of them are too slippery nor too grippy. They both have backlight, single stage backlighting on our HP. I like them both quite well, honestly speaking. They're two of my favorite keyboards to write on. The travel is deeper. HP worked hard to get deeper travel despite this being a pretty skinny Ultrabook. And in that respect, that's something that I do like better. When I type for long periods of time, I've never quite completely adjusted to the super short travel on the Dell, and my fingers feel a little bit like punishing, or sometimes I do a double keystroke from hitting so hard and lingering a little bit longer as it bottoms out. But that doesn't mean this is a bad keyboard. It just means it's a shallower keyboard on the XPS. Difference in the deck is you get this nifty carbon fiber finish here, which is a soft touch finish that feels nice. It does pick up some oil. You got to clean it, particularly the trackpad, which I've noticed goes from being very good to being kind of wonky because it gets a buildup of oil. So take a damp cloth with a little bit of soft soap on it, clean this once in a while, and your trackpad will continue to behave just fine. HP does not get gummy at all on any of this area here. This is a nice thing about the matte metal and the big glass trackpad. As to which trackpad I like better, they both are about equal in my book. I know some people have complained about the XPS trackpad. It's funny how some people love it, some people hate it. I've gotten along with it. It's smaller, it's a more normal size. With the HP, the only thing I've had to get used to is the right click is further away because it's just such a big trackpad. You're going to move further to the right to actually tell it you are on the right side. So there you have it, both good in different ways. If you like a little more key travel, you're probably going to prefer the Spectre X360. I think most people can adjust to the Dell's low key travel though. So how about horsepower and performance? You're looking at the same internals on both of these folks. Generally speaking, if you're looking at Ultrabooks from the same Intel CPU generation, you're looking at pretty close to identical performance. You might see a little variation in the benchmarks, that sort of thing, but never anything super different. In the case of the HP worked with Microsoft closely to tune the hardware to get really good performance out of it, and they avoided putting much bloatware on it. Thank God, thank God. So it's very zippy, and it does do at the higher end of benchmark scores. Dell always tunes their machines really well in their XPS line for performance, and it also scores quite well among other Ultrabooks with the same CPU and integrated graphics inside. Both of these have Intel HD 5500 integrated graphics. There is no dedicated graphics option. Generally speaking, with these thin and lights, there isn't because there's just not enough room for heat dissipation, and you know the battery life would also be affected somewhat whenever you're using that dedicated GPU. But anyway, pretty darn close here. Either of these you can get a Core i5 or Core i7 5th generation Broadwell CPU. Dell also has an even cheaper $799 model with the Core i3, which I always recommend against if you can afford it because you lose turbo boost. And you're going to notice without that little occasional boost of power when you need it to keep applications running smoothly, it won't feel quite as fast. So there you go. So I would say start with the $899 model with either of these. With the HP for $999, you can get 8 gigs of RAM and a 256 gig SSD, which is pretty darn nice. With Dell, you're going to have to spend some more money to get that level of hardware inside. For $899, you're looking at 4 gigs and the 128 gig SSD, like I said. So how about battery life? You've heard about the Dell XPS's wonderful battery life. That is for the 1080p non-touch model. If you're cool with rolling with non-touch display and 1080p resolution, then you can get 10, maybe 11 hours. Some people may even squeeze 12 out of this. Of course, Dell claims up to 15 hours of battery life. That's optimistic, manufacturers tend to be, but still, that's very impressive battery life. That's moving right up there with some of Apple's better laptops in terms of battery life. If you want that touchscreen or higher resolution that comes along with it, then you're looking at more average battery life. Not bad, but average, 7.5 hours, 7 hours or so of battery life. The Spectre X360 with the 1080p display touchscreen, though, so far has been very impressive. We've been averaging 9 hours of battery life, and that's with the touchscreen. So for those who want touch, the HP is the winner. For those who do not want touch, the Dell XPS 13 is the winner. A little complicated way of looking at things right there, but there you have it. That's how it's working. When it comes to speakers on these, you can watch our full reviews and hear them. Both of them are louder and fuller and better sounding than the average 13-inch Ultrabook. They both have very nice audio. With the HP, I do suggest you go to the Dolby control panel and play with the settings, because then you're going to really hear the best audio possible. The default settings are okay, not super duper wow. So both good on that front. In terms of build quality and durability, they're both quite good. XPS is Dell's premier line. Spectre is HP's premier line. Whether you're talking about business or consumer, XPS is for both, so it doesn't really matter. The Spectre in some countries is actually marketed also as an HP business model machine. So you're getting very good build quality, good durability. Obviously, the aluminum casings on these, very sturdy, no twist, well put together machines. The HP, like I said, is the more artistic looking. My goodness, for a piece of unibody CNC milled perfection, it really is it in terms of looks there. But anyway, both of these, they don't scratch easily. They shouldn't expect them to break, anything like that. Yeah. So there you have it. Two of the top Ultrabooks on the market for early 2015 and possibly for longer, to be honest. It'll be interesting to see how many out there are actually going to beat these guys in terms of build quality, features, usability, all that sort of thing. There isn't a one is better than the other in this case. It's going to be which one suits you more. If you want the smallest, lightest possible 13.3-inch Ultrabook on the market and you want just to use it as a conventional laptop, then the Dell XPS 13 is a really good choice. If you want the versatility of being able to use it in a variety of modes, the convertible thing, the yoga thing, the tent, the presentation, the tablet modes. If you like that pen input, well, then the HP Spectre X360 is the winner for you. Like I said, you get a little more for your money with the HP Spectre X360. You're going to have to pay a little bit more to get up to that 8 gigs of RAM and 256 gig SSD that are standard on our $999 model Core i5 here. Dell's going to cost you a bit more. It's going to cost you more if you want the touchscreen. So there it is. Interesting but true. You never know who's going to offer the cheaper machine with similar appointments, but this time HP managed it. Either way, great build quality, lovely displays on these. For me personally, I love them both, would love to own them both. I do like convertibles. I do use the pen. So for me, I like the versatility of the Spectre X360. Some of you who only use it as a laptop, you're going to say, well, I don't care. I only use it as a laptop. See, that's why this one's going to be up to you. So there you have it, the Dell XPS 13 2015 edition versus the new HP Spectre X360. Both of them Broadwell generation Core i5, i7 laptops, both 13.3-inch displays, and you have high display resolution and you have super high display resolution options available with them. Great keyboards inside, pleasing looking displays. And I have to say that the HP really gets you a little more value for your money. As I said, you're going to spend several $100s more in the XPS 13 just to move up to a touchscreen if you want to do it. So for $899, you kind of get all the core features right there in the Spectre X360. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to watch our video review of each of these laptops, read our written reviews, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.